Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Let us sit for meditation, sitting comfortably with your feet placed in front of you, or as you sit on a cushion, cross-legged, being aware of the posture, taking a deep breath in, easing the mind and body into this present, letting go of all sankhara associated with the past, views, thought, intuition, letting go of anything connected to the past. And as you do, feeling an instant sense of relief and lightness, letting go of the future, hopes, aspirations, views, gently coming to settle within the present, fully unhindered. As you guide your attention to be aware of the whole body, seated here, adjusting the posture if necessary, not clinging to comfort, and letting go of any comparison associated with past or future practice. Inspired by the Dhamma, being in the present, and as you sit in meditation, feeling a great sense of ease in the mind and body, in order to dwell deeper into a more profound state of peace and tranquility, relaxing the muscles all across the body, starting from the feet, the toes, fully aware, relaxing the muscles all across the feet, the toes, the legs, the thighs, the whole lower body, relax. Firm but not rigid. From the thighs to the abdomen, the tummy, the diaphragm, the chest. The spine, the shoulder blades, the shoulders. Gently relax, balancing the relaxation where one knows when relaxation might become sluggishness, sloth and torpor. This relaxation is attuned to samadhi, sati, sati sampajanya. From the shoulders down towards the arms, the forearms, the hands, the fingers, the tips of the fingers. Allow the body to remain in the state of being as opposed to doing. Allow the body to just be. And as you do, acknowledge the stability, the calm, the fleeting of sankhara in the mind leads to peace and tranquility of the body. From the tips of the fingers upwards towards the shoulders, the neck, all around the neck. Gently, gently. The face, the facial muscles, the cheeks, the forehead, the tension, if any. all across the head. Gently, let us direct our attention to be based with intention at the tips of the nostrils, tip of the nostril. And let us take a few moments to observe the rise and fall, the arising and passing, the in-breath, out-breath, having brought the body to a posture suitable to develop our concentration and samadhi. Let us advert and observe the breath, using the breath as an anchor into a deeper state of presence, with intention, coming away from all the noisy sankhara, thought proliferated by greed, hatred, delusion. Let us find and embrace the peace that arises from nothing. Maintaining the mind upon the tip of the nostril. Quiet the mind, not with aggression, but with love and understanding. Perfection is not what we attempt to reach. It is simply being with what is. The breath may be fast or slow, long or short, gross or subtle. Regardless, this is what is. Gently letting go of time and any concern over time. Let us just be. Sharing in the collective spirit of our practice. Forgiving the mind and body for all transgression, for all self-inflicted harm, for all the moments of aggression, desperation, for all the moments of powerlessness, for all the moments of losing, to the hindrances, kileshas, putting all sankhara to rest in this moment. May the mind flourish. In its ability to maintain composure towards the breath, wanting nothing else, wanting nothing, needing nothing, just be, just be, just be. observing the breath with every rising and ceasing breath. May sati develop in this moment with a lack of need and want. Just be present here. As we progress in our attention over the present, easily content in this moment, untangling the knot that we ourselves have created. Let us be, let us be. Let us be. Noting the nature of change, impermanent. steady in the moment. Resolute in the need for liberation, should a moment of letting go bring us such tranquility, imagine the profound, unparalleled experience of Nibbana, the mind that does not cling, that does not want, the mind ever steady and present, the radiance of sati and wisdom that would overflow into each and every experience at all doors, mind and body. steady, whatever thoughts that may arise in the mind, wholesome or unwholesome, both sankhara, both impermanent, let us not proliferate. Let us now embrace the opposite, the lack of proliferation, the stillness, being in stillness. Gently let us, whilst acknowledging through our experience of the moment, the state of the mind, the very real potential of suffering in this moment, the moment one creates expectation, hopes, clinging, there is the fight to maintain the competition to do better, fueled by craving, by views. This is the reality of all conditioned beings. Gently, knowing this to be the human condition, the condition of existence, good, bad, push, pull, the yin and yang that we all find ourselves enthralled in, just so all being. Let us take a few moments to radiate loving kindness towards this mind, this body, accepting the mind and all the conditions that affect the mind, knowing the presence of good and bad, as we walk in this path, unable to see the true depth of this moment because of it. Gently may every fiber of this body, from head to toe, toe to head, every muscle, every fiber, every bone, every organ, down to the smallest of cells, red and white, leaving no part of the body untouched by metta. As one would sit under a waterfall and be drenched by the waters that flow. Let us shower this mind and body with an abundance of metta. May this mind and body be free of evil, be free of all toxicity, may this mind and body heal from all pain, anguish, suffering by one's own hands or others. May this mind and body have no hate, may the mind and body be well, be happy, be well, be happy, be well, be happy. May the river of metta saturate the whole body and mind, feeling lighter and lighter. All knots untangled, clarity in perception and perspective. Feeling the lightness and peace of this moment. Let us not enjoy this alone. Let us share it in abundance, without fear, with all beings around us, near and far. Starting from one's own household. May all be well and happy with understanding, with reflection and introspection. Let us liberate all beings from hate, from judgment, from views which may have defiled our perception. May we set people free in being confident and finding peace in the fact that we are all being wandering samsara with good, with bad, with condition. And with this touch of metta and wisdom stemming from the practice, we liberate those who we have touched with anger. We liberate those who we feel bonded with lust. We liberate those whose images have been marred by delusion. Accepting being for who they are, grounded in the purest Dhamma. May all being be well and happy. May all be well and happy. May all be well and happy. Wholeheartedly. Let us set all beings free, free of our anger, free of our lust, free from our delusion. May we have the strength to see things as they are, to find strength in being vulnerable, in understanding the human condition and the nature of this samsara that we roam. May all beings be well and happy. Be well and happy. Be well and happy. Be well and happy. Gently, with a profound sense of lightness and feeling deeply at ease with the present, with our world, with whoever that we share our lives with. Taking a deep breath in breathing out, relax. And when you are ready, opening your eyes and awakening into this moment. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, everyone. Oh, Devika.
වෙලාව පොඩ්ඩක් වැරදුනානේ. ඒ කියන්නේ ඔබ වහන්සේ හරි මට දීලා තුන මගේ අර පැයක් වැඩියෙන් දාලා තිබුණානේ. ඉතින් ඔබ වහන්සේ හරියට ඒක කරෙක්ට්ලි දාලා තිබුණා මට 10ට කියලා. මට හිතෙනවා ඒක 11ට කියලා මට වැරදුනා. සාහිනාස් ටිකක් කියුණාද?
That's fine.
I'm being honest.
That's fine.
වැරදුනා ටිකක්.
ඒකට කමක් නැහැ. All right, everyone. So, do we have any questions that you would like to ask, or anything that you would like to say or share? I think in our last session we talked about the Metta Sutra. Yeah, the Metta Sutra. And I think it was well received in a manner that it was rather different from how we would normally look at the Metta Sutra. And if you remember, where I told you, okay, go back, out of the session and think about it, ponder over it, and come back with any sort of reflections or questions that one would have had. So did you think of it? Did you think about how the different qualities of metta, as we spoke about, sort of trance applies and relates to to us in every moment, at every moment, and how that metta sort of flows into, the practice of something as depthful as Vipassana. Mm. Any comments, anyone? Manisha, would you like to say something? Mm. No, I
Oh, hello,
think.
Bhante. Hi.
Oh,
Hello.
Manisha, do you want to say
Um,
something? No?
yes, just in regards to the session today, I did notice that I had bouts of restlessness today, but I found the metta part very calming.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wonder sometimes during metta, one may feel lightness as well, but sometimes um, does like a visualization of light come with that as well sometimes?
It could. The visualization of light is something that people use, practitioners use, in order to spread metta towards oneself and to other people as well. Uh, and usually, as I think it does have the sense of lightness, and light in radiating metta comes very handy. Comes very handy. But as we progress, as we progress, we connect in connecting to, let us say, the truest feel of what metta is. And for example, in the feel of letting go or liberating people, liberating people from, let us say, things that they've done to us, the hold that we have over people based on anger or lust or delusion or any of the sort, or even on the other side, let us say, when if people commend you all the time, isn't it? When people commend you, and if you are a person who is often commended, there's also this great amount of stress um, that could arise when to maintain that commendation, to maintain that strata of strata, that standard of being, isn't it? Uh, if let us say, people acclaim you to be a very, let us say, amazing orator. There is a sense of stress to now not be a bad orator. If people have this expectation on the fact of, let us say, that you write so well, then there is a amount of stress that is placed on the fact of being or continuing to write well, isn't it? Uh, of course, not to all, but there is a sense of expectation that we put over ourselves and others. Allowing people, allowing oneself to liberate people means liberating the bad, of course, and allowing people or our perception of the world to be liberated from our kilesha, our own kilesha. And on the other side, when we look at when we look at the good part of good side, liberating people from the attachment that we have to that good as well. Because both of them, whether it is bad, okay, if it is negative, we then put people down and sort of demarcate them as lower or lacking of certain qualities or whatnot. And then on the other side, letting go or liberating people from the expectation of good, which often, let us say, in circumstances of children towards parents, is something that often arises where, children would often say, "Oh, you're my mother, you're my father, you're supposed to do these things for me." Huh? Or how the mother or the father would tell the child, "You're our child, you're our only child. You should do these things, you should do these things, you should be like this." The expectation that we sometimes, of course, we place these expectations may, on out of care, out of responsibility, out of um, dutifulness. However, the imposition that it sometimes places whilst we advise, it is also a process, isn't it? And when we start radiating metta, it often manifests like a sense of light. Mm? The lightness leads to light. This is not imaginary. It happens because of the purification of the heart element. Mhm. The purification of the heart element is what gives you that radiance of mind of light. That is where, and because the heart element, the Hadevastu, is the place that we meditate with, especially if we are, let us say, doing metta practice. It is not like anapana, where anapana is based upon the body do. Metta practice is based upon the mind do. So the mind do arises at the heart base. Hence, Aridhamma Swamin Wahanse beautifully explains this, where when you start the metta, how the the Hadevastu itself, the mind that arises based upon the Hadevastu, is blissful, calm, non-agitative, if that's even a word. Huh? May And as that mind arises, it is like, when a fragrant, beautiful rose is in your garden, and as you step out, even before you see the rose, you smell its fragrance. You smell the beautiful hue of its existence, isn't it? The beautiful hue of its existence. And that on the mind of Manisha manifests as light. Manifests as light. Sometimes when we struggle with metta, this light, it might not be the white or golden light. It might start with dark light, right? Apikemu, we start doing metta and we take a person or someone pops into our mind where we become a little bit agitated. At those times, it can even be dark light. But not being agitated by this, accepting the nature of the mind as it is, because remember, non self, we continue to practice where it now that light may then turn into lighter shades. And that is shows us a position of mind. Now, of course, one should never practice metta to achieve this. You should not practice metta to achieve this white light, never, because that really is, how can I say, counterproductive. Counterproductive. You must, the light or whatever light at whatever stage of meditation or whatever stage of meditation practice should arise genuinely, authentically. Huh? That is where the fullest effects of metta penetrates into each and every fiber of our mind and body. Metta even heals our brain. When you do some metta and you go to sleep, it shows that the usually sleep heals our brain. Usually deep sleep is very healing to the mind and body. We know that already. But metta further accentuates it to deeper depths, so much so that you can even, look at a person, we've spoken about this, and like healing, almost your presence, your existence, your smile is healing. Why? Because all of those actions comes from where metta is radiated in the mind, chittaja rupa, the rupas that arise because of the mind. So light is very much a part and parcel. For some, it might be light. For some, it might be sounds or whatever. The nimittas can arise through the different sense doors. But overall, it is a profound state of lightness, and in that lightness, you break the bonds of attachment, because we live in a manner which is often let us say, it is like a tree that is being supported by many sort of pistils and columns, uh, because the tree is heavy. So it needs all these pistils. And so for that, you need, let us say, a wife or a husband or a child or a carer or, all of these people around us, isn't it? And that's how most of the time, even people who do very great, great things, are often you find a lot of support that they get. Even in our professional duties and responsibilities, we get a lot of support in order to, hopefully, in order to do the things that we do. The Buddha says that that support or reliance upon a mundane being is fragile. Not to say that it is bad, but the Buddha says that it is fragile. Fragile, why? Because sometimes, most of the time, just as we are, people are also temperamental. They change. One day may be good, one day may not be good. And when you are living in a household or a place where this temperament changes quite regularly, it can be very difficult to the mind. Especially, we know of instances if the mood of the person, let us say a mother or a father or a partner, is varying, you see that your mood sometimes is dependent upon the mood of these people. The Buddha shows us the path not to deem these people as unstable and to sort of not see value in them, but to go deeper to see that just as these people, my values inside are also the same. Hence, the deepest metta allows us to liberate people, liberate ourselves, posting less stress on relationships, burdens on relationships, which I think comes very handy, isn't it? Especially when it comes to forgetting and forgiving, not forgetting, but forgiving people and never bringing it up again, for example, can be quite difficult sometimes if it is not properly healed, isn't it? So you bring it up again and again because one doesn't feel fulfilled by the answers or the closure that one receives. But sometimes the loving thing to do for oneself is to allow that wound to heal and not to scratch on that wound again and again. And the Vipassana practice, I think, is deeply healing, even far beyond the touch of metta. But metta, as a foundational practice and also as a quality of mind that is existent, because we know metta is a cetasika, isn't it? Metta would be the cetasika of alobha. Metta would be the cetasika of alobha. Not to say that alobha is always metta, but one strand of alobha's manifestation, non-greed's manifestation, is loving kindness. Just like, for example, one strand of alobha is also generosity, for example. When metta is present in the mind towards, let us say, the restless mind, the mind that is coerced into different sort of distractions, have metta towards it. Have profound and deep metta to understand, just as, let us say, in an ideal situation, the metta towards a crying child, a crying child or a child in distress, where that metta doesn't allow us to get annoyed and frustrated over what is going on, but more we understand. We understand. But remember, everyone, as a Dhamma, as a practice, it is always important to also set boundaries. To set boundaries. These boundaries are not built upon the fact of views or irrational thought or one's selfish motives. But these boundaries are present to protect, hmm? To protect, to nurture, right? For example, when you are watering a plant may need, let us say, 10 liters of water, right? Overwatering it just because you have quote unquote metta does not mean that it is good for the plant, isn't it? It does not mean that it is good for the plant. However much fertilizer there may be, or however much minerals there may be in the water, however much that water may be good for the plant. However, after a certain point, it is not good. That is where our metta differs from, let us say, for example, the practice of Tibetan metta. Tibetan metta. Tibetan means the Dalai Lamas. That would be in doing the Bodhisattva. Mahayana Tibetan. Mukada, when you go to Dharamsala, right? I wonder if any one of you have been to Dharamsala. Huh? May, may another place we should go to. When you go to Dharamsala, which is where the Dalai Lama is, there are all these practitioners, a lot of white people as well, who've been inspired by the teachings, and they live, go for retreat, or they live, or they spend time in prayer. It's a beautiful place covered by snow-capped mountains all around. And this town, Dharamsala, which was awarded by the Indian government to the fleeing Tibetans, this town is situated in this beautiful position within a valley. Yeah? So all around you see beautiful snow-capped mountains. And actually in Dharamsala, it is quite close by, but about a 15-minute or 10 to 15-minute car ride. You also have this beautiful Goenkaji's Vipassana Center. Yeah, Vipassana Center, which is located within the valley, but on the other side of the valley. So it is a beautiful location. And as you look out from the kutis, you see the snow-capped mountain, and it seems so great in a way. And we feel like we are just one little being, yeah, just as we are. However, now that you know what Dharamsala looks like, in Dharamsala, in Dharamsala, when you sort of walk the roads, you would see in the mornings, you would have people feeding the animals. Okay. And when and these animals like cows and um, dogs, especially cats, stray animals, so they are practicing the bodhisattva vows. Okay. Now, these bodhisattva vows that they're practicing, because in the Tibetan faith, Tibetan Buddhism, there is a vow, because it is a bodhisattva practice, there is a vow that you will not attain Nibbana, I will not attain Nibbana up until all other beings have attained Nibbana. Okay? In Theravada Buddhism, as we sort of understand, the teachings say the opposite. You achieve and attain, and you will be in the best position to allow and teach other people to achieve and attain. So you find these people, let us say, feeding the stray dogs, the stray cats, the cows. It's quite nice. However, up until up until the dogs start fighting over what is fed to them. Okay. And now when the dog starts fighting, right? I mean, um, quite a normal visual, isn't it? The dogs fighting over the food. The people who are practicing metta now, let us say, a dog is to pick up a bone or something, and they are to run, and then uh, all these other dogs chasing behind this dog, right? So let us say one dog with about 10 other dogs chasing, the person who's feeding also is now chasing the dog. Now, so you're seeing people in, and this I've seen so many times in Dharamsala, they're chasing after to stop the dogs fighting, right? So the people, right, would get in the middle, like literally jump into this brawl and try to separate the dogs. Okay, try to separate the dogs, which may be seen as, I don't know whether compassion is the word, right? Which may be seen, um, however, the fact of wisdom being there, or the fact of wisdom in that mix, I felt was a little bit, it had room for improvement there, where,
අන්සේ ඒ
yes,
බල්ලෙක් කෑවොත් මේ පස්සෙන් දුවන එක්කෙනා ජීවිය නතර
yeah, bodhisattva also. So even if a dog is to bite you, that is a part of the practice to deal with it, right? It is part of the practice to deal with it. So bodhisattva vows. So what they are trying to inertly do is, let us say, rather than trying to correct humans, it's easier to practice with animals at first. I'm not joking. I'm actually saying it's easier to practice with animals. In that way, then you move on to humans, right? But you do see the amount of calamity that could be there, right? When you see, or when you're sort of running with a herd of dogs, in order to sort of stop a fight or something, may seem a little bit interesting. In our practice, in the Vipassana practice, according to Theravada Buddhism, as we follow, is quite the opposite, where prajna is a very important component. And it is with that prajna, whilst you have metta, you can say no, you can set boundaries. And oftentimes, boundaries are very important, especially when you're dealing with multiple personality disorder type of persons, bipolar persons. And it actually helps those people to navigate their emotions far more effectively, knowing that the people around them, that they may have taken for granted or abused, is no longer going to put up with it. In a way, not in a way, in many ways, you are also helping the person. However, this kind of intuition has to arise from not logical thinking per se. Of course, logic is also part of it, but really through a heart of compassion and wisdom. Because without the meditation, you might try to navigate this because of understanding, because of the way that we've been groomed in life, raised in life. However, it is ineffective. The powerful manner in which we can touch upon that is truly touching upon who you really are as a person, as a being, who you really are. We may never know who we really are, but we may know, we may be able to touch one true fact, which is the fact that I am not entirely pure. I am not entirely free of flaws. I am not entirely a perfect person. And that perfection does not exist within me. So, how may I expect that perfection to exist within the minds of other people around me? Being able to relate and understand that in a manner professed by or led on to by the sati, the metta, and the prajna. Allow these forces to balance itself out. I think that it helps to have a goal, a clear goal, which is, let us say, effectively, my goal is to reduce the amount of sankhara in my life. Let us say. My goal is to radiate boundless loving kindness. Boundless loving kindness. But boundless loving kindness also needs to have that effective wisdom that we derive through introspection, contemplation, reflection, being in the moment, seeing oneself, not other people, seeing oneself for who we really are. That is conditioned, beings that are conditioned. We are not the same person all the time. When we are in our professional capacities, we may be different. With friends, we may be different. With monks or priests or in religious circles, we might be different. In meditation circles, we might be different. With our family, we might be different. It does not mean that we are liars or crooks or manipulators or that we are putting on a mere that we are sort of shallow. No, it does not mean so. It doesn't have to mean so. It could be, but it doesn't have to be. Or it isn't always. But simply, we are just in that condition at that moment. Hmm? That condition, as we have a goal placed upon ourselves, as we have a place that we want to reach for some, I think the most powerful goal is Nibbana. Because Nibbana, when you have a goal like that, everything else that goes on in our lives seems very trivial and small. Hmm? To forgive becomes easier because it is not my goal to have this negative bond with a person. Negative bond with a person. It is not my goal to proliferate hate and have more enemies and to have people who are cynical, and it doesn't serve my purpose, my goal. My goal is I want to reduce the sankharas in my life. I want to reduce the pain that I inflict upon myself through hate, through faulty perceptions, through cynicism. Hmm? Hence, being a person who is able to embody that sense of peace in this moment. Hmm? That goal surpasses, I think, all other goals in our life. And it's so powerful that it trickles down to each and every fiber of the body, of the mind. That at that moment it becomes powerful. So when the mind is erratic or the mind is with stress, the mind feels, the heart feels broken. At these times, it's easy for us to understand and connect to what truly is. I can't control everything that is around me. I can barely control myself. Uh, I can barely control myself. How on earth am I going to assume, or why am I being uncompassionate? No. Why am I lacking compassion towards myself to the extent that I am taking on burdens that are not meant to be carried by you? By you. That effectively, I think, helps us all in putting down those burdens. And just because you put down those burdens does not mean that you do not care. But you are of a far more significantly powerful mind that allows us to look beyond look beyond the facades that people put on to protect themselves, in protection usually. That's why facades come from insecurities, from fear, from having been let down, isn't it? From all of these anxieties and sad akusala chittas of the mind. We look beyond that, and I think the special thing is when you look beyond that facade, when those boundaries are down because of metta, when you have metta, usually people put down their boundaries very fast. Okay? And at that time, when you look into a person's eyes or you look at a person's face and you see them for who they really are inside, when that hate is not there, or let us say you can look into a person's eyes and you can see pain and hate as well, for sure, right? This has often worked for me immensely when working with criminals. Mm. Whilst I was working, I worked here as well, in Burma and in Sri Lanka, in prisons. I've always had this sort of ability to connect with prisoners so well. And I have told you different stories as well. Uh, because regardless of what they might have done, right, of course, there are, persons who are clinically, you know, the criminality stems from, let us say, the brain and brain chemistry, right? That is also there. But even with those beings, with those persons, you can connect with them when you let your guard down and you're vulnerable and you have metta. They feel that. I have worked with so many psychopaths, multiple murderers. I have sat in rooms with people who have killed more than 10 people. I have, um, and I've had beautiful exchanges with these people as well. Not all of them, but most of them. And the ability to connect to that reality of a being comes with that sense of confidence, not particularly in yourself, but in the dharmata. In the dharmata, I myself could be a murderer. I myself could be a plunderer. I myself could be a person who could commit matricide, patricide. These things are not beyond me. As a being who is conditioned, the criminality that is in this person, the faults or the anger or the lust or the delusion in this person before me is also the same that could be in me right now. I could change, knowing that there is no difference in this condition. Of course, their circumstances might be different, but we are all human. Connect with that reality, and you will connect with people so deeply. And you see people for who they truly are. And it is difficult to hold a permanent, of course, you can hold grudges. It is very normal. It is very normal to have judgments. But when your mind, often those judgments comes when our minds are, let us say, in ripple, chalane vela, in ripple. But when those ripples are calm, when we use the breath to calm those ripples, then you see reality. The reality that you see within, you see externally, internal, external. So forgive everyone. Let us all forgive. Let us all liberate. Let us all feel the peace that comes from that liberation. Not only other people. Liberate the body from the mind from the body as well. Think about that. We have expectations over the body. We have now these days I have this bad backache, which I've actually made. I was doing a bit of stretching on a cold morning, and now it's been about 3 months, but it's now slowly getting better. But I had this backache, which which makes me feel quite old. Which makes me feel quite old. Huh?
මොකද කියන්නේ එහෙමනම් ඔබ වහන්සේ වගේ කෙනෙක්
Yeah,
වයස්
which
වෙනවා.
which makes me feel quite old sometimes. But the expectation that I have, whether I'm 30 or 50 or whatever it is, the expectation that we have in our minds towards the body, being at peace. Because often when I ask people, people who are older, when I would ask them, oh, do you, in your mind, do you feel any different from when you were, different? They would often say, no, we feel like we are the same people. But of course, learned or gone through, yeah. However, that tone or who we are, it's like we are the ones who have gone through. The expectation that we place upon the body by the mind, liberate it. Especially when we go through illness. When we have to, let us say, when you have to go for all these tests, and if you go for a lung test and you have to sort of blow into that pipe and they get you to do it over and over again because you're not blowing enough. Or they are pricking you to draw blood and they can't, find the vein or something of the sort. Liberate yourself. Liberate the body from the mind from the body. That expectation that we place in ourselves to be, healthy all the time. We can't be healthy all the time. And at one point, of course, things will get in the state of the body. Who knows? Liberate. So that expectation that we place mentally over the body, it doesn't cause us grief. It doesn't cause us hatred. And then liberating the mind from the body. Sorry, this one that I've just said is the body from the mind. How do you liberate the mind from the body? Liberating the mind from the body. Sometimes, let us say, when you would look yourself in the mirror, you might not be seeing the same person that you saw 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Come on, even 1 year ago.
Yes, over.
uh, even 1 year ago, you might be showing your grandchildren or friends visiting your old pictures and photographs, and you might think, oh my God, how time has passed. But those things we don't take out of hate or rejection, but with openness. Openness grounded upon the understanding of life. Understanding of life. So we liberate the body from the mind from the body. And when we do liberate the mind, just so, we are able to see Nama Rupa as it is far more easily. Think about it. When those expectations cease, when you're with it, when you're in the present, doing whatever the nurses and the doctors say in the different postures that you had to be, or sitting on whatever chair, right? And when you do not have this sense of burden, you are able to break the Nama Rupa apart. So when the Rupa is going through immense stress, let us say, pricking and scans and therapy and all of these things, the mind is steadfast. And the mind does not place unnecessary burden on the body. Oh, I can't do this. My wrist doesn't work. I can't hold a cup. Or my hand hurts, or my leg hurts, or my jaw hurts, or my head hurts. As long as we are in samsara, we will hurt. That is what the Buddha says, isn't it? As long as we are in samsara, we are samsaric travelers from body to body, from life to life, from birth on to death. We will go through many, many factors and degrees of pain and hurt, just as we will go through different types of happinesses as well. Thus is life. We cannot reject one and expect the other. We cannot have another and expect the latter as well. So the openness that we sort of, let us say, spread, the openness that we sort of create or weave, like a beautiful tapestry, this sort of openness that we have to the limitless potential and possibility. Sometimes, even in, let us say, when we hear stories of people, sometimes such stories do not even cross our minds. Hmm? They do not even cross our minds. However, and you mean have never thought as well that surprise that arises, huh? That surprise, that's hatred, everyone. That's dosamola. Hatred is a very strong word. Dosamola. There's a subtle hate there. Sort of a rejection of that. That is where the surprise comes from. Hmm? When you do metta, that surprise or that subtle hate that arises, rejecting this part of reality, does not arise. Huh? Does not arise. Why? Because the mind opens. Hmm? Just so, in our own meditation, when the mind is not stable, when the mind is restless, when you're going through something difficult, challenges, we are not taken by surprise over these challenges because we know that to live is a part and parcel of a challenge in itself. To live, to manure relationships, to manure families, to build is to go through that stress as well. So we have metta and acceptance every single day, every single moment. When we do find ourselves in a position of weakness, or when we do find ourselves not having the stability or steadiness of mind, understand it, accept it, life. And in that life, know, liberate the mind or liberate the body and separate the nama and rupa. When you separate the nama and rupa, the mind is very steady or the body is very steady. And whenever I've told you before, when you next visit your doctor, maybe you're good with sort of being pricked. Devika, how are you in being pricked?
I'm okay. I'm used to it.
You're used to it.
Yeah. You see my fingers, I'm pricking all the time to check my blood sugars.
Oh yes. Oh
Yeah.
yes.
So I'm
Oh.
used to it. And
That's
even
wonderful.
yes, I'm not scared.
You're
Only
not scared.
yeah, only thing is I need to watch. If I don't watch, that anxiety kills me. So
Ah,
anything they can do while I'm watching.
okay.
Anything.
Yeah.
I have
And then
always been like that.
and then when you have that sort of prick, the pain, the slight pain that arises, you don't take notice
I
of.
don't know. I'm used to it
You're
so much.
used to it.
It doesn't feel
Yeah.
as if I don't watch, then anxiety kills me. Not knowing when are they going to prick, when are they that I don't like. So do
Yeah.
anything while I watch.
Okay. Do anything while
I,
you.
yes.
Yeah. එන්න ඒකම යොදා ගන්න පුළුවන් අනිත් දේවල් ඔක්කොමටත් නේද? Uh,
True. True.
so even when, let us say, suffering, even with suffering, when you watch it,
Yes.
it's easy to sort of deal with it that way.
True.
When you watch it, when you are sort of observing it, arising and ceasing, or whatever it is, මොකද just as you said, the prick, I'm used to it because you've been pricked so many times.
Yes.
And because you're doing the sugar
Yes.
testing, right? In that same manner, you've been hurt so many times. You've been, isn't it? You've been hurt so many times. You've
Yes.
been going through suffering or heartache or
Yeah.
despair and all of the concern and all of these emotions also so many times, more times than you've been
Yes.
pricked.
True, Bhante, because I'm very genuine.
Yeah.
So if they can hurt me quick, easy.
like a bowl of jelly.
Yes. Somewhat. Oh,
Somewhat.
I really didn't know it, because I did everything genuinely.
Exactly. But that is where then the same karmasthana or the same position that you're using for that injection or the pricking, The same applies to that as well. Liberating the mind, liberating the body. Liberating the mind, liberating the body. Then uh, a, a dog, let us say, that is not trained. A pet dog that is not trained, right? Not trained yet. Or a cat who is not trained, right? It will not be in their instinct to know where to, let us say, do the, to pee or whatnot, right? Why?
Yes.
Because it's not trained, right? And then, of course, we come to the point of, okay, let's get the dog trained or the cat trained, okay? How to sort of where to go to the letter or whatnot, right? Just so the untrained mind should not be a surprise to the mind that is trained, because the trained mind was once untrained. Attanang upamankatva, taking oneself as example, that experience of oneself itself is what gives way to this arising of deeper metta. The more you are able to see impermanent suffering and non-self in this world, the more one will be able to see or go deep into metta. So the Vipassana, and with the Vipassana Karana Maitreya, the Itat Vata Shaktimat. That is how the Buddha has the Maha Karuna Samapatti, not just Karuna, Maha Karuna Samapatti. Why? Because the Buddha's Matta, Mudita, Karuna, Upekka is not just Samadhi based, but it is Vipassana based as well. Because the Vipassana then allows us to see the true impediments of condition, affecting not just me, but also all beings, regardless of state that they are in, whether human, animal. If you know or experience other types of beings, then the same as well. Hence, on that peace that we have, we master the courage to have relationships, to associate people, but associate people, to have compassion towards people, not expecting an untrained dog to know, for example, where to go to the toilet. A very crude way of saying there, for duck crude. But at the end of the day, how does one expect a mind that is untrained to act trained? Can't. Do we have any questions, anyone? Anything to add, Damayanti?
Bhante, I mean, this is how I practice most of the time. Like any pains or any problems comes and any ill health comes, I look at it sometimes yes, this nama rupa, I look at it that way.
Yeah.
But most of the time which gives me a relief is this is something karma which is I have to go through, and it is then becomes dissolve away the problem. This is something I have to face and do that. So that makes it that makes it very easy to experience that without any hatred or anger or anything to your pain or any other suffering.
Sure. That also
Is
works.
it right? I'm just thinking that's how I do it. More than looking at Nama Rupa. Yes, when I go to the doctors and do something, yes, this is if they are, I have to do things. So I think it is. This is the body. This is they can do anything and just let go of that body part. Yes.
That works as well. So as the Buddha say, as the path is um, Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Noble Path, Karma, Karma Vipaka, past life, future lives, past and future lives. ඔය ටික තියෙන්නේ. දැන් ඔය ටික තමයි උතර කර්මස්ථාන වර්ග. Those are the meditation techniques. So one of those techniques is past karma, right? The fact of this may be a karma that I have to go through. But remember, there is with the karma approach, just as with every approach, there are these potential shortcomings that you have to protect it against. With karma, it might also have assume dosa. Assume. ඒ කියන්නේ, a subtle sense of dosa may arise as a upaklesha, which is to say, for example, when you say, oh, this might be a karma that I have to go through, if it comes from the wisdom, that's fine. Huh? When it, if it is to come as a sense of, let us say, hate, or a subtle hate or a strong hate, then we know obviously that path is not the path that we have to walk, because we often also see people using the technique of karma in a negative connotation, which is to, let us say, to put oneself down even more, right? To put oneself down even more. The ඉන්න තැනටත් වඩා පහතට දානවා.
No, I thought of accepting things as a, then it makes you kind of accept that and not react to things at all.
Absolutely. If it goes on that sense of acceptance, acceptance not because of the fact of you are not because you placed yourself at a lower place, but acceptance on the fact that we must all go through our karmas. On that ground. If on that we are able to let go and put it on to the Vipassana, somehow, Damayanti, it has to come into, let us say, the Nama Rupa, which is you have to go through the pain without getting entangled with the pain. Just like a lotus grows untouched by the mud that has birthed it. Just untouched. ඒ තැනට එන එක very important. Because if we are able to bring, yes, the karma or the metta through both, other people might come up with other techniques that are that have been helpful to them as well. In the Theravadin practice leading to Nibbana, it is very effective and powerful to bring it onto Nama Rupa. Hare. Now let us say, because let us say, in being able to sort of see what is happening, right? This can also be, let us say, subtle control. Subtle control. Okay, strong control also, subtle control වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. Meaning, I am comfortable with what I see is happening, but what happens, right? What happens when you cannot see? You cannot see. What happens, everyone, if you are in bed in a hospital bed with all this butter, these pipes and tubes, right, put into you, and your throat expanded with the plastic, and you have no idea why, what is happening to me, කියලා හිතෙනවා, right? What is happening? Because you wake up and you can't move, and you have all these butter, these pipes everywhere. ඒ මොහොතේ, even at that time, completely powerless in a way. But it doesn't need to be a circumstance that is powerless. The mind at that moment, breathing or sensations or whatever object, the more you're able to put on to Nama Rupa and divide it, where now the body, let us say, the body is incapacitated. The body does not have capacity, right? Why? The situation that you're in. Mind is not incapacitated. We often think that the mind and body is incapacitated. That is the delusion. Mind, the body may be incapacitated, but the mind is not incapacitated. If you have attention, if you have awareness. Just so, I have heard that people who are put under may put under sometimes I mean, they would be able to feel whilst their bodies are unable to move and do all of that. Huh? Now imagine a circumstance like that, everyone. What will you do? Powerlessness. What are you to do when you're in that state of powerlessness? Do you understand?
Yeah.
Letting go of all power is the greatest power. Huh? At that moment, in the mind, whilst you are, because sometimes when you go into deep meditation, you might have noticed in yourself, initially you think, oh, there's nothing much to do, it's boring, la la la, right? However, when you continue and when you progress and all of that, it becomes so interesting. It becomes so interesting. And it almost feels like the infinite stars in a night sky. Yeah? කොච්චර දේවල් බලන්න තියෙනවද? Isn't it? Isn't it? Vedananema, right? When you are initially you might be feeling on the grounds of, oh, I can't see a lot of Vedana. But then when you continue, do what you have to do. And when it opens up to Vedana is very live and every moment there, it's not boring at all. Yeah? Different observations that can be there. If the mind is trained to do that, if the mind is trained to do that, that is our santuttitave. Santuttitave. Easily content. Easily content. Can. Where now, before we had the body, now we don't.
Yes.
Part of our body doesn't work. We only have the mind. Huh? At that moment, and you have all this sort of inflammation and some sort of weird feeling in the throat, because obviously when you have a pipe, isn't it? I mean, down your throat, and if you can't see, almost as if there's a big fish or something on your throat, in your throat. Neither. And how can you remain without getting excited? That is where that Nama Rupa division comes very handy. And that is why, as we always love to talk about Achancha, how he was able to also experience the sublime Arupa jhanas whilst he incapacitated again in the hospital. Incapacitated again. He was in a coma, no?
Yes.
He was in a coma.
So you can't go into Arupa jhana in the coma?
My mind?
In a coma, your mind is not working.
So probably Damayanti, sorry, maybe I'm using the wrong medical term, the body.
He had a stroke, isn't it?
He had a stroke, yes.
Yeah. So his mind was so alert, probably.
Mind was alert. His mind was, so don't you call that a coma?
No.
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 No, huh? Okay.
No.
Coma is both. You're done.
Coma is your brain is kind of a completely not working. They don't know what is happening if you're in a
They
coma.
don't know what is happening. I often have heard people say coma in this sense. I hear them say coma with regards to Achancha's story. But he did have a stroke, yes. Regardless, he did go into the Arupa jhanas and he was coming in and out as we spoke last week as well with the flatlining, right? This is possible because of the strength of his mind.
Yes, that is possible. Yeah.
Strength of his mind, because he was able to maintain that sense of sati. ඒ කියන්නේ මොනවා තිබ්බත් මොනවා නැති වුණත්, whatever that is not there, right? Whatever you lose, still that state of mind, that is your island. Be an island onto yourself. That bit there, which is then being able to handle that with that steadiness of mind. Difficult, it might seem. We don't have to train for it. We just have to do and be determined to maintain our awareness throughout. Puluvan taram, always distances, the pins and the needles and the drawing of blood and the sitting on chairs and waiting for appointments and all of that and anything else, of course, right? May you've been shouted at and screamed at and all of those things is when blame is hurls of blame is being hurled at you, or when sort of rivers of compliments are being thrown at you as well, uh, thrown at you as well. In all those stages, the mind is steady. The mind is steady, but you cannot expect to take just the compliments and let go of the bad. You can't do that either. Because yin and yang, just like the push and the pull, just as the push and the pull, they come, this everyone comes with deep, I won't say deep, understanding and resonance of Dhamma. Resonance of Dhamma. Watch in order to, but Bhante, I love compliments. Yeah? May watch that mind. See how the greatest compliment is the peace and tranquility and the unwavering faith and the indriyas that are there. That is the greatest compliment out of all compliments. මොකද අපිම we have lived experience, isn't it, everyone? One day someone comes and say, "Oh, doctor, you're such a darling. You're so sweet." It was a බෙහෙතක් වැරදුනොත් නැත්නම් if you're not going to prescribe the medicines again, කුණු බැනුම්. Yeah, just so, even for the monks or whoever it is, in whatever position or place or whatnot, it's the same thing. When the compliments come, the same person on another day, on a better day, or when something is going wrong or not in the way that is preferred, then it turns into blame. Then it turns into blame. When sometimes that blame starts, we realize with the compliments that blame increases. Compliments වැඩි වෙනකන් දාන blame එකත් වැඩි. ඔතකොට අර without the compliments, right? For example, I thought you were a good doctor. You know, I was fooled. You are not. I need a second opinion. You know why that comes is for that person because they complimented you before. Now, if our minds are attached to those bits and parts, right, in being people pleaser or being, people who are living for the compliments, then it becomes very difficult. Right? Now, we do have a lot of young people who depend on a lot of compliments. They want compliments. Tell me I'm pretty. Tell me I'm good looking. Tell me I'm this. Tell me I'm smart. Tell me I'm this. You get what I mean? Their minds are so drafted towards that positive reinforcement externally that when that does not come, then it gets very difficult to be in those positions. The practice enables us to balance out both of these. Balancing not because we want to balance it and live a good life, but the goal, everyone, for me, it works with Nibbana beautifully because Nibbana Kiputanama, all else is inferior. When you would say the light of Nibbana or the enlightenment of the Buddha, Arhatship, everything is whatever that you lose or gain is small in comparison to that. All right, everyone. Do we have any more questions or anything that you would like to ask before we close the session for today? Okay. So, we will close the session for today. But before you go, everyone,